Now let's get to Jean-François Lisée. He is standing by. Monsieur Lisée, the former leader, of course, of the Parti québécois, who's joining us for a couple of appearances this week. Again, thank you. It's good to have you back.
Well, first I must tell you, Mr. Lisée was my father, so I'm going to call you Aaron and Natasha. Hello.
Hello.
Fair enough. Can I call you Jean-François? Just
well,
seems
you have
weird.
to.
Okay.
You have to.
Fair enough. I want to start with a story that we talked about a couple of days ago. I'm not sure if this is fair to ask or not, but I do want you to weigh in. André Fortin made it official that he is not interested in seeking leadership of the provincial Liberal Party. I will tell you that for a lot of people, and we've had him on the air many times, we thought this guy's a shoo-in. Mm-hmm. He's easy to talk to. He knows his files. He speaks perfect English. He's fluently bilingual. Mm-hmm. And yet he doesn't want this job. And I'm curious if you're surprised by that or not.
Well, I am, because André Fortin, who I know very little, but I do share your appreciation, very fluent, very articulate. And since when he was a minister, he was a little, as we say, langue de bois, the cassette. But since then, I heard him in a number of press briefings on the issues that he has as a responsibility in the opposition. And I thought that he had broken the mold and was more forthright. And so I thought he was a good candidate for leadership, although he's not Mr. Charisma. He doesn't stand out in a crowd or through the screen. But he had gone through this evaluation on whether or not he should run last time around when Dominique Anglade decided to run, and had made a determination that he wanted to stay as a simple MNA. And since he was returning to this question about whether to run or not, I thought he had made up his mind and was just waiting for the right moment or the rules of the game. But the fact that he withdrew this week is really a bad sign for the whole Liberal Party.
And what does it tell you about the current state of the Liberal Party?
Well, I had great respect for Dominique Anglade. I knew that when she decided to run, she was there for the long haul. Exactly the same as Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. When he decided to run, he thought, well, if the PQ didn't die, he would be there for 2 or 3 political cycles. And so by the same token, I thought Mr. Fortin or anyone else who would go to the leadership would say, well, I surely will not win the next election in 2026, so I'm there for the long run, 10 years or maybe 12 years, and then we'll see. And so looking at this investment of at least a decade, you must have some notion that growth is at hand if a number of variables can be put together. And what I see in Mr. Fortin's decision is that no matter how much willpower you put to it, the destiny of the Liberal Party seems really dire.
All right. I want to move on. We both had a chance actually to speak to Benoit Dubreuil, the new commissioner of the French language here in Quebec, and I had a chance to interview him at length as well. My question to you is, do we really need a commissioner of the French language here? We already have a minister of the French language. We have the Office québécois de la langue française. Do we need a commissioner, and what for?
Well, when you look at the track record of the office, or even with the conseil that you left out, you may not remember it, but when governments change, the results seem to be a bit colored. And under Mr. Couillard, there were results of the OQLF that were just not published or vastly delayed. And so the commissioner is like other officers of the National Assembly. They don't work for the government. They work for the National Assembly and are elected at 2/3 of the Assembly. So it gives the commissioner more leeway, like the Directeur Général des Élections or the Ombudsman or other officers, to not be swayed by the wishes of the PQ government to say things are more dire than they are, or a Liberal government to say things are not as bad as they are.
I'm sorry. Just to follow up on that, and I understand what you're saying. It dawned on me when you talked about the OQLF. One of the issues that always comes up is the fact that the OQLF will issue a report or send someone a complaint or fine or whatever it happens to be. We never know, and I know retailers complain about this. We never know who filed that complaint. They remain anonymous, and try to access that information is impossible. It just can't be done. And people say, well, that's unfair. If you have a competitor in business who decides, he wants to make your life difficult, he'll go and complain anonymously, or she will, to the OQLF, and they can do this over and over again, and you will never know who that is. Do you think that's the right way to approach that?
Well, that's an interesting point. I mean, if I were the head of the OQLF and I was told that it's being used as a competitive tool by competitors, I would intervene, because this is a diversion of what the complaint should be. There are a number of complaints we can do in society anonymously, even to the revenue department. So I don't think the anonymity is the problem. But if there's a distortion of the process for other means, I think then there should be safeguards to impede that happening.
Okay.
I wanted to bring up something that comes up often when we've spoken with the commissioner, but also just on the show, this idea of the concern over what language is being spoken at home. Does it matter what language is being spoken at home, and is it okay for the government to sort of have any say or influence over that?
Well, when we look at the situation in New York or Boston or Ontario, the fact that 99% of immigrants will, at the second or third generation, speak English at home is simply an indicator that there is no scenario where English will disappear. However much trouble you can have speaking English in a cab in Toronto for now, at some point the children will speak English. So when we look at this metric in Quebec, it's simply an indication of where language is going in the society. There should be no attempt to influence that part of intimate life, other than to know where the trend is going, and is the rest of the linguistic legislation and apparatus that has an influence to nudge that in the right direction. So everyone who says that just evoking this is some kind of a totalitarian attempt at telling people what to talk, what language to speak in the home, is just bunkers. The fact is that this is an end result that gives us an important indicator of the health of a language or not.
Okay, I will just wrap up because we're going to run out of time here. You've heard, though, I'm sure, the Premier say he's troubled by the fact that data tells him that French is being spoken less and less at home. So what does that suggest?
Well, it suggests that, I wrote the Santor speech of Mr. Bouchard in another century, as you know, and it was in the Santor speech as well. If this indicator tells us that the Francophones are losing critical mass of a number of people who speak French at home, it means that we're going in the direction of a decline of French. It doesn't mean that police should come in the house and say, speak French. It means that something wrong in your education policy, immigration policy, language policy that needs to be addressed.
Again, and I don't want to belabor the point, but let's say these people are coming in here, maybe their first language at home is Spanish, yet in their work, when they head out there and work with other people, they're speaking French all day. So why does that even represent a problem at all?
Well, I lived in Washington for 4 years. So I spoke French at home and I spoke English the rest of the time. That didn't make an Anglophone out of me, which is a fine thing to be, but it didn't make an Anglophone out of me. It made sure that my kids at home would be brought up in French. So when you look at the future of a language, you say, well, it's no problem that a fraction of the population speaks something else than French at the home, but you know that the assimilating force in the language is not people who speak French as a second language. I never assimilated anyone to the English community. I tried to assimilate people to the French community. So when this assimilating force loses critical mass, and it lost the majority mass on the island of Montreal, it means that your power of attraction is lessened. That's why it's important.
And then how do you fix that if that's your concern?
Well, isn't English teaching them? They're all going to school in French. That's got to play a huge role.
That plays a role. Everything plays a role. going into school in French, has French as a second language, reading la presse or whatever, everything has a role. But if the end result is that, I gave you the number of 95% that goes to English community in Ontario. Here, in order to keep our current linguistic equilibrium, the end result should be 80% of non-Francophones and Anglophones going to the French side and 20% to the English side. If we had that, there wouldn't be any debate. But it's 50-50. So we're far from, the level at which there is perennity in the situation.
Monsieur Lisée, I'm sorry, Jean-François, thank you very much for the time. Very much appreciated. I hope to have you back a little later when summer vacation time is over. We'd like to have you back as well. Thanks again.
I'd love that. Have a good day.